The Muffin Man was actually a serial killer. The Muffin Man is probably one of the most well-known nursery rhymes. But did you know it was based on a real story? A real dark story. In the 1800s, a man by the name of Frederick Thomas Linwood would wait in alleyways to kidnap and kill kids, luring them in with muffins. The song was later created to spread awareness amongst the kids and keep them safe, warning them about the Muffin Man, who was a danger on Drury Lane even though he was the first documented serial killer in the world. Everyone still teaches the song to their kids because not a lot of people know that the Muffin Man was.
Imagine getting arrested for having a child with a dead body. Jennifer Burrows is a 26-year-old who was working at a morgue when she was arrested after a DNA test proved her child's father was a dead body she was supposed to autopsy. But it actually gets worse from here, because while Jennifer was working as an assistant pathologist at the morgue, she had relations with more than 60 bodies, belonging to men aged 17 to 71 years old. She did this for 2 years until it led to the birth of her son. Her son's father was a 57-year-old veterinarian from Texas, who passed away in a car accident in 2017. Jennifer was charged with 158 counts of indecent treatment of a corpse. Many psychologists and experts have debated why someone would do this. The reasons range from curiosity to severe mental illness. Some even believe Jennifer was suffering from psychosis. Alright, after all that, I don't really know how to end this video, so stay safe out there and follow for more.
Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die.
A story that just continues to keep me up at night is what happened to the Yuba County Five. In 1978, there were 5 men that were coming from a basketball game in Chico back down to Yuba City in the middle of the night. Now, all 5 of the men suffered from mild intellectual and psychological disability. Never gonna know why they did this, but for some reason, when they were on the highway, they got off of the highway and went onto a dirt back road in the Plumas National Forest. You know, is that for whatever reason, they eventually got out of their car and started walking on foot, and they vanished. Police eventually found that car and they expected something's wrong with this. Not the case. The car had gas and it was working fine, so why did they get out of it and walk through the woods? Nobody knew what happened to them until eventually somebody stumbled into this cabin. Quick before I get into it, if you want the full episode on this, you can listen to it on Creep Time, the podcast. Inside that cabin was the body of Ted Wire, and he had lost 80 pounds. Didn't make any sense because the cabin was full of food. Eventually they found everyone's body except for Gary Mathias.
Laugh out loud.
This is maybe the scariest urban legend I've ever heard, and it ended up being true. Back in the 1970s, there was this terrifying fun house in Long Beach, California called The Laugh in the Dark. And there was always this urban legend that all the mannequins inside were fake, except for one. Also, mind you, this is what this week's episode is about, so if you don't want spoilers, just listen to the episode. This urban legend came to be because there was one mannequin inside that just looked wrong. All of the other ones looked fake, but this one in particular looked way too human. And a bunch of the kids also said the area that the mannequin was in just smelled really, really bad. So a few years go by, and one day a film crew comes in and is using Laugh in the Dark for a film set. The director's lining up a shot, and he just doesn't like the way this one mannequin looks in frame. So he goes over to a crew member and he's like, hey, can you just move this out of the shot? So the crew member goes over and starts moving the mannequin when its arm pops off. And inside of the mannequin's arm is human bone. The kids had been totally right. The mannequin was a mummified body. There's so much more to this story, like who the person was and how they got there, and I talk about the whole thing this week on the episode.
I remember thinking, I'm about to beat this bitch up.
Things that bother you, they never bother me. I feel happy and fine.
I will be showing the video, but nonetheless, hi, my name is Ethan, and here's everything you need to know in under 1 minute. In September of 2017, 31-year-old Laura Wallen vanished into thin air. Her boyfriend Tyler Tessier had played the part of the worried boyfriend desperate for answers. However, he was living a double life. He had a fiance, and he feared that Laura would expose her pregnancy. The night of her unaliving, Laura texted her friend and stated, "Tyler has taken me to an open field in Damascus. I'm not sure why we're here, but it's in the middle of nowhere." Her body was found a few days later. Sam and Colby eventually uploaded a video where they were in the same area at the same time, and they captured a woman begging for help. Here's the video.
What the? Did you get that? Yeah, I got that. Somebody is screaming.
Someone's screaming bloody murder.
Whoa. Guys, what the? Do you hear that?
Yeah. What do you guys think?
Whatever you do, never go searching for this video. These 5 friends were forced to kill each other by the Mexican cartel. These 5 young aged from 19 to 22 were looking for some sort of employment, and they were promised a high-paying job at a call center. But when the alleged contact was taking them to meet the people for the job, it actually turned out to be a whole scheme to recruit them to the Mexican cartel. And when all 5 of these boys said they didn't want to join, the cartel then said okay and tied them up, taped their mouth and took a picture, and then recorded one of the friends killing all the other 4 friends. And after that, they put the 5th one, who just killed all of his friends, into a car and set it on fire. I am telling you right now, do not go searching for this video because you will find it. And trust me, you do not want to see something like this. This case is absolutely horrific, and the fact that this happens way more often than we think is just extremely scary and disturbing. It's just sad that these young men were just trying to get a job and make some money for themselves. But instead, it turned into a living nightmare. Rest in peace, these 5 young men.
You know that little plastic seal on medicine bottles that is almost impossible to take off? Even if they have that little pull part, 9 out of 10 times it never works. The reason why we have that is because back on September 29th, 1982, 7 people bought over-the-counter Tylenol, and when they ingested it, they all collapsed on the ground and died. At first, there wasn't a clear correlation as to what caused all of these mysterious deaths until one of the mourning families, Stanley Janus and his wife Teresa, went back to their now deceased loved one's home to take some Tylenol to cure their headaches caused from crying all day, and shortly after they both passed away. That tragedy led investigators to piece together the truth and potentially saved hundreds of other individuals' lives. When they tested the bottle of medicine, they found 100 to 1,000 times the lethal dose of cyanide. After the incident, 31 million bottles of Tylenol were recalled, and after the incident, several copycat murderers followed, thus causing us to now have the safety seal. Oh yeah, and none of these murderers were caught.
By the end of this video, you're not going to be able to look at this photo the same way. This photo looks completely innocent, a middle-aged man reading to a bunch of kids. But this man is Paul Schaefer, and he's the leader of one of the worst cults you've probably never heard of. Paul was a Nazi during World War II, and after the war, he fled to Chile to basically start his own prison camp. I talk about it more in this week's podcast episode, but he brought a bunch of other Germans to Chile under the guise of let's escape Germany. But once they were all there and he had them in the middle of nowhere, he started subjecting them to torture. And unfortunately, no one got it worse than the children in the camp. Upon arrival, kids were stripped from their parents, told they no longer had parents, and were beaten if they tried to talk to them. Powell also started a hospital in the area, which was just a way for him to abduct local Chilean boys. If a young boy went in for a checkup, he would have the nurses sign adoption paperwork and he wouldn't return the boys to their families. And this is all because Powell was an abuser of the worst kind, and he did all this to create a society where he basically had unfettered access to young boys. And eventually, he turned his cult into a death camp. There are over 600 people who went missing at this camp, and most of them are local Chileans. Anyways, this whole story is so wild, and I encourage you to listen to the whole thing in this week's episode.
These girls are force-fed to be fat. They are taken to fattening farms in the middle of the desert, where they are fed the equivalent of 30 cheeseburgers a day. Obviously, these girls can't handle that amount of food. Like, look how small they are. So this happens. And if they refuse to eat, they are beaten. They also put illegal drugs in this food to make them gain weight faster. These girls are sent here by their parents in this last 2 to 3 months. This all happens because here, girls get married like before they're 15. And the bigger the girl, the easier it is for them to find a husband. And obviously this is really important to their families, and so this is why their families send them here. And obviously force-feeding people or trying to gain or lose weight really quickly is really dangerous for your health. So when this all happens, these girls get really, really sick. It's not only like headaches and vomiting, this increases their risk of developing really severe diseases. People from this camp have developed diabetes, heart disease, liver failure, kidney failure. And part of this is because of the extra stuff that they put in the food. Like, they're literally given animal steroids to get them to gain weight faster. Part 2 is already up. Follow my TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for more if you like my content. It really helps when you interact.
Don't hate me, but this story is too extreme to keep under 1 minute. Hi, my name is Ethan, and here's everything you need to know in under a minute and a half. 20-year-old Krista Pike began to feel jealous of her friend, 19-year-old Colleen Slimmers, as she feared that she was trying to steal her boyfriend Daryl's ship from her. However, later on, Colleen's friends claimed that that was far from the truth. On January 12, 1995, Krista, Daryl, and one of their friends, Shadala Peterson, had lured Colleen into the woods near the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, promising her free weed. Once they were there, Krista bashed Colleen's head with her knee and then began hitting her repeatedly. They tortured and stabbed Colleen for almost an hour, and eventually Daryl had carved a satanic symbol in her chest. The couple apparently sacrificed Colleen to the devil, and Krista even kept a piece of Colleen's skull as a trophy. The next day, Colleen's body was found, and Krista was almost immediately turned in as she was seen dancing around the room, telling her friends about the crime that she had just committed. She even showed off the piece of Colleen's skull that she had. She was arrested and told investigators everything, and her confession was 42 pages long. She was sentenced to death and still has not shown any remorse. As of today, she is still alive, and people are actually fighting that her death sentence be removed and she just serve life in prison, but let me know what you guys think.
On the morning of November 29th, Christine Young suddenly woke up out of a deep sleep feeling a cold sensation come over her. It was exactly 5:45 a.m. and she noticed that her arms and legs were starting to go numb. She thought it was strange but brushed it off in the moment, not knowing what it could have meant. After all, she needed to get some sleep so she could wake up to meet with her daughter later in the morning like they had planned for a while now. But when Christine's daughter Ashley didn't show up for their arranged meeting, she began to worry. She started frantically calling Ashley's phone but got no response. So she called each one of Ashley's friends to see if they had any idea where she was. This is when she learned that her daughter Ashley had plans to meet up with 30-year-old Jared Chance and hadn't been seen since leaving a local bar with him. A few days later, police receive a disturbing phone call from a concerned neighbor in Grand Rapids, Michigan. This neighbor explains that he's just stumbled upon a tarp with a stream of blood leaking from it. When police arrive, they find that the tarp is wrapped around a human torso. The owner of that apartment? Jared Chance. The DNA of the torso is tested and it comes back that it is human and that it does belong to Ashley Young. Ashley's arms and legs were later found in a box in Jared's apartment. That's when Ashley's mom, Christine, recalls the incident from a few days prior. She believes that at the time she woke up at exactly 5:45 in the morning was the time of her daughter Ashley's death. Unfortunately, Ashley's head has still never been located.
Did you know that Chucky is a pedophile? And so is Howard the Duck. Well, not the characters, but the actor, that is. This is Hollywood actor Ed Gale, who played Howard the Duck and Chucky amongst a number of other roles in his career. And recently Ed was caught by online predator catchers. Apparently he had tried to solicit hand, oral, and possibly anal sex from a 14-year-old boy. And now, after admitting to all of this on video, Ed is under investigation. I'm going to show you a clip from Creep Catcher Unit. They're a group that catches online predators. And let me tell you, this one was especially heartbreaking because I love the Chucky film series. It also should be noted that Jeffrey Jones, the villain from Howard the Duck, is also a pedophile. We just covered his story in another TikTok a few days ago. But anyways, here's the clip.
Get stuff with a kid. You grab another page, look at this. I also know you're still a virgin. Are you gay? Like, do you think this is appropriate to talk to a kid like this? If I grab every, like, well, I'm literally grabbing random pages just to show you an example of how graphic this chat is. Because you committed 2 felonies today. Do you understand that? Yes. Communicated with a minor online sexually. Yes. Can we agree on that? Did you talk sexually to a minor online, yes or no? Yes. That's a felony. Yes. Having a meeting with this kid, inviting him over to your apartment to continue to do these sexual acts is illegal. 2 felonies. Yes.
This woman created such disturbing videos that she was sentenced to 50 years in prison. This story is truly one of the worst things that I've ever covered here on TikTok, so if you have a weak stomach or you can't hear about animal cruelty, please keep scrolling. So this is Ashley Richards from Houston, Texas. In 2015, she pleaded guilty to 4 counts of producing and 1 count of distributing these disturbing videos. And once again, I'm going to warn you, you can keep scrolling at any time before we get into these details. So this all started in 2012 when PETA, or the group known as People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, contacted the Houston police about a video they had found online. This film was titled Ebony Kill Cat, and it depicted extremely sadistic and cruel acts being forced upon a kitten. So the police got into contact with the people from PETA, and they then sent them 20 additional videos. These videos depicted the sadistic torture of various animals, including kittens, a fish, pigeon, crayfish, mice, a rabbit, all being tortured with different things like high heels, knives, screwdrivers, and pliers. In the videos, the woman that appeared in them was wearing a Mardi Gras style mask, and she would talk suggestively to the people watching this torture. Yes, that meant that there were paying customers out there that were paying this woman to produce these absolutely horrific videos. I cannot share the details of some of these videos. You can actually find the information online through news articles, but I mean, I think I changed as a person after reading these articles. Eventually, though, the police were able to track Ashley's IP address, which led them to her suburban home in Houston. This is an example of one of the messages she shared with the client. I mean, just, ugh. That led them to Brent Justice and Ashley Richards. These were the two that were producing these videos and selling them on a website online. And Congress had recently passed a bill making this specific type of video material, otherwise known as crush, illegal. So thankfully they were arrested. Shockingly though, Brent Justice, after the trial, he was actually sentenced to 50 years in prison. Shockingly though, Ashley, the woman who actually carried out these acts on camera, was only sentenced to 10 years in prison. Now, personally, this is one of the most disturbing things I've ever read about, and I definitely think she should have been in prison for a lot longer, but that's the justice system. This corn star is a serious pedophile, and let me tell you, this story is going to disturb you. This is Bianca Binlas, otherwise known as her stage name Marsha May. So Bianca is an infamous corn star. Her videos have millions and millions of views. She's very mainstream, but she has been charged with some absolutely disturbing and disgusting things. So back in 2014, when this story takes place, she was a rising star in the industry, but let me tell you, that's when things took a dark turn. So in May of 2014, Bianca and two 18-year-old friends of hers, she was 21 years old at the time, were arrested. So according to authorities, these three picked up three underage girls who ranged in ages from 12 to 14 years old, took them to a home in Miami, Florida, and had a party. According to authorities, the minors were then given booze and other illicit substances. They were fed to these children, and then Bianca and these three men had a party. The 13-year-old would later say that everybody was having with everybody there. And even more disturbingly, it was alleged that they were all filming this. Stupidly, she and the other two people that were involved in this horrific incident took to Instagram and posted videos and photographs with their victims. They all tried to make this seem like a completely innocent thing that they were taking a part in, but this was a disturbing pedophile incident with three underage girls. It was also discovered by the police that while the three victims were asleep afterwards, these people took zoomed-in videos of their private areas. So make no mistake, this was a complete pedophile incident. But for some reason, even after the arrest, trials, and everything, all three of these people were given probation. They never served any jail or prison time for this horrific thing that they did. And even though Bianca was blacklisted from the industry, she still continued to make content. And I'm going to read you a tweet that she tweeted after all of this legal stuff happened. Bianca said, "I love my career. I hope this doesn't interfere with my dreams, but only time will tell. Hashtag bless up for me, peeps. Much love." I mean, what the absolute... Yeah, this is just a disturbing story, and I felt like everybody online needs to know this.
So what? Okay.
This is Chelsea Shipp, a TikToker charged with murdering a 16-year-old girl. I have to say allegedly throughout this TikTok because there's been no full verdict yet, but let's examine the story. So before this story came out, Chelsea Shipp was a normal mom posting videos on TikTok sharing her life with the world. And from the outside looking in, she looked like your average Texan girl. She often posted videos with her daughter like this one.
No, you're supposed to have one boyfriend. I have two. You're supposed to have one boyfriend. I got two boyfriends.
And it should be noted that Chelsea's account is still on TikTok. I don't know how they're letting an alleged murderer still have a TikTok account, but yeah, it is still there. So at one point in her life, Chelsea started dating this man, Cody Arnold. And at one point in their relationship, Chelsea found out that Cody had been dating an underage girl. This girl was 16 years old and Chelsea was seemingly fine with it, which is a disturbing twist in its own, but at one point Cody came to Chelsea and said, "I think that Caitlin, the 16-year-old girl that I'm dating, is pregnant." This is Caitlin right here. She was only 16 years old when she died, and before her death, Cody had been grooming and essaying her a lot. So after finding out that her boyfriend's 16-year-old girlfriend might be pregnant, Chelsea decided she's not going to let that happen. She feared that if people found out about this, Cody could get in major trouble. Obviously, he would have. So on March 26, 2022, when Chelsea, Caitlin, and Cody were all hanging out in the same mobile home, Chelsea decided to take matters into her own hands. She grabbed a gun from the house. She walked right up to the 16-year-old and shot her point blank, killing her immediately. So at that point, Chelsea tried to hide the body. She contacted a friend, asked if she could use their car to do some things, and then she admitted to a friend that she had killed the girl. Now, one of that friend's family members was actually a police officer, so she immediately contacted the family member. They went and searched Chelsea and Cody's trailer home, and they found the body of 16-year-old Caitlin and a bullet casing right next to her on the bed. Chelsea tried to make a run for it, and she was arrested over 200 miles away in Liberty Hill, Texas. But these two are now awaiting their trial. I am really excited to see them go away, hopefully for a very, very long time. This is a disturbing crime. And it goes to show that even the friendliest, most smiley people on TikTok can hide some of the darkest secrets imaginable.
This is Funky Town, one of the worst cartel execution videos explained. Okay, before I begin, this is a massive trigger warning. The video begins in some sort of room and there is music playing. The first song that plays is Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses, and the camera pans to the victim tied on the floor with some plastic wire, but the torture already began before the video starts, because the victim looks like he already went through complete brutality. His hands have already been cut off and his face has been completely flayed, which means skinned. There is no skin on the victim's face at all, and his eyes have been gouged out. And there is an insane amount of blood on the floor, but the most messed up part about this is that the victim is hooked up to some sort of IV, and the IV is pumping him with drugs to keep him alive and aware, making sure he felt everything happening to him. At the start of the video, they try and slit his throat with a sickle and press it against his jaw. But when the victim begins to scream, they shove a box cutter in his mouth to shut him up. His screams are absolutely gut-turning. They kept going from screaming to gurgling, from screaming to gurgling. And as the video progresses, they take the box cutter and slit his throat about 40 times. And keep in mind, the victim is still alive and aware of everything because of the drugs they are giving him to keep him alive. Also, the killers are mocking and laughing at the victim the entire time. They continue to try and slit his throat with the box cutter and were going at his neck numerous times, all while the song Funky Town was playing in the background, hence the name of the video. The killers kept having to physically restrain the victim, meaning there was still a lot of life left in him, and the amount of pain he had to be in is completely unimaginable. At one point in the video, a man had his foot on his chest holding him down, and another time they had shoved a pole in his mouth holding him in place. But the worst part about the video is towards the end, where the victim manages to loosen his arms from the restraints and immediately tries to touch his face. But remember, the victim has no face at all, no hands, and no eyes. But instinctively, the victim still tries to touch his face. It's absolutely horrifying, and the video then concludes. Keep in mind, the victim was still alive when the video ended, so who knows what else they did to him before he died. Because they were literally keeping him alive just to torture him. This victim went through so much pain and torment, and you can make an argument that nobody has ever been tortured as bad as this guy ever. I explain this based off pure memory from the first time I saw the video, because I won't dare watch it again because it's that gruesome. Everybody who saw videos like this always say Funky Town is the worst of the worst. And I honestly think that might be true, so please don't watch it and please don't search it up.